I will be making some reference to some of the resources. I'm mindful we're talking about quite a delicate situation this afternoon, so let's just take a moment to be quiet, shall we? And be mindful, find some peace, find a place of well-being, place of safety. One of my favourite poems when I talk about issues of loss and grief is a Japanese haiku, and save showing off, I'll just give it to you in English. Skylark sings all day long, day not long enough. Skylark sings all day long, day not long enough. So we're really going to be sharing some, I want to give you a kind of a case study of the work that I do with my team at the hospital. I've been in paediatric chaplaincy for 17 years and maternity chaplaincy for nearly 2. At the Children's Hospital we support around 230 bereaved families every year, and a staggering number at the Women's Hospital that is nearly beyond mentioning. It is just heartbreaking. So what I want to do is just share some stories, share some illustrations, share lots of pictures. We'll see how we go for time for videos. We have got a break after this session, so feel free to come up and have a look. Maybe we'll just put some of the videos on afterwards. Just to get us going, we're looking at loss. I'm going to tell you lots of stories and illustrations about bereavement and loss. Let's just have a little creative think. As well as death, what other type of loss might young people that we're experiencing engage with? Divorce. It's a type of loss, right? Yep. Okay. Anything else? Moving house. Yeah. All that stability, security. Yep. Yeah, moving around. Yeah, that's my home. That's now not my home. I have no home. Loss of physical ability. Physical ability, yeah.
Pet dying.
Pet dying. We'd give you that one with not death, but anyway, it's not a human being we'll give you. Because to some people, to my sister, you know, that's much more important than me. I know my place. I'm not a cat. Yep. Yeah, there's a loss of hope and expectation and future and things like that. Yeah. Losing friends. Yeah. 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 So just begin, if you've never kind of thought about it, anytime I teach about bereavement, I start with loss, because we have to locate grief and bereavement and death within loss theory. It's the most sensible place to start, because it is the bigger theory. As sad as death is, it is only one aspect of loss that our young people and children that we're supporting would be going through. So I'm just going to kind of show you some of these pictures. May not be quite big enough, but hopefully I'll be able to show you some of the things and reads. So this was a space that we did for one of our days for our family, and as we were having therapy groups and a bit of pampering for our families, we just set up a ritual space for people to come and participate in, and again giving choice and engagement. People thoroughly enjoyed it. Most of you will be familiar with the elephant in the room imagery and the metaphor. Just to give me an idea whether you need me to read it or not, does anybody not know the original poem? Just a couple? Again, just as we begin to think about what we're doing, we've now developed an activity to engage children in loss with this poem, and we've slightly amended it. This is the original poem. There's an elephant in the room. It's large and squatting. It's so hard to get around it, yet we squeeze by with "How are you?" and "I'm fine," and 1,000 other forms of trivial chatter. We talk about the weather, we talk about work, we talk about everything else except the elephant in the room. We all know it's there. We're thinking about the elephant when we're talking together. It is constantly on our minds. For you see, it is a very big elephant. It has hurt us all. But we do not talk about the elephant in the room. Oh, please say the name. Oh, please say it again. Oh, please let us talk about the elephant in the room. For if we do not talk about her death, perhaps we can talk about her life. Can I say her name to you and not have you look away? For if I cannot, then you are leaving me alone in a room with an elephant. And if the incarnation is about anything, it is about coming and sitting in the crap with humanity and eyeballing that for what it is. And sometimes it is awful. Best bit of wisdom I can give you today is this. I'm going to peak early. Got nothing else after this. What do you think the most common phrase that I use when walking into the room of a dying child or a bereaved family? What do you think? I've been doing this a long time. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Just read you a poem from a book that's got some guy's name called Paul Nash on it or something. Right? What do you think I say? What have I got? Pardon? This is crap. Yeah, that's about the second or third time. I take the tone of the room before I get to that one. No. I used that last night. Yep. Pardon? There's nothing to say. Sometimes our ability to sit in silence and offer nothing but our presence is the greatest gift we have, guys. And for some of us, that is really hard to do. And what we've done is create activities to create a safe and sacred space to do with children and young people and their families to explore this. But if they want to talk, that's down to them. The one thing I will basically say is this: I am so sorry for your loss. All right? And if that encourages you or discourages you, I don't know. I hope it encourages you, because if you're sitting there thinking, I have no idea what to say, that's all I've got. And apparently I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. Okay? Because I think sometimes that's all there is to say. A family I was with yesterday, I haven't processed this, so you'll have to just live with however I manifest this today. Their baby weighed 6.5 ounces. Okay? And because I was able to acknowledge the humanity of their baby, all other barriers with this complete stranger family was gone. And we were able to endorse the significance of their loss, because they felt it and they needed another human being to come alongside them and say, thank you. Yeah. whether they were shocked, but anyway, there we are. So where have we been? My wife, Sally, is the director of an organisation called MCYM, and they have helped us inform our practice in paediatric chaplaincy with professional play, children's and youth work principles, and that's really helped us to develop. So you can buy things like these. I do use the Bible quite a lot, but I probably use IKEA and Baker Ross even more. And you can buy these elephants and boxes, or you can use a shoebox. And we amended the activity to talk about what's not being talked about in young people's care. And they come in just a very bland kind of beigey colour. And we just create the environment. Deco patch, anybody into all of that kind of arty stuff? Yeah. And we get them to do it. And one young lad did his elephant, and because of what we've learnt about youth work and children's work, we say, we've got some activities, would you like to do anything? Just kind of put them out, let them choose about participation and empowerment. And he decided to have a go, and so he chose his elephant, and he painted his room all yellow. He painted his elephant all yellow, and the only non-yellow on his elephant and room was a tiny black line around the ear and the tusk. And because we're learning how to relate to children and young people in paediatrics rather than just their parents, so would you like to tell us about your elephant? Well, no one sees my problems. What's he done? He sat there and painted an elephant. But the level of disclosure through the play that we all know, that create the space without presupposing what they will come out with. So, we think about religious, spiritual and pastoral care in what we're doing, of what energises you, what connects you, what brings you hope, what brings you life, what brings you strength, brings you a sense of sacred and a sense of meaning and purpose. And for some of the young people and children that we relate to about grief and loss, they may have a concept of God within that, they may not. For me, I've become less wary of spirituality and spiritual things because it gives me a way to relate to everybody. That we work on the premise that we're all spiritual beings. And we're all trying to find meaning and purpose and identity. And what connects us. And so these are just some of the activities. And so I hope you can kind of relate to some of these. So just one more story before I move on to some of our more wider activities. We do larger memorial events and bereavement events that I want to tell you about, but just one. So the same principle, the babushka dolls, you can buy them plain as well. I don't know if any of you know that. You can really easy to get hold of. And you create the environment for these children and young people to engage. And we know these children are already processing life, their loss and their grief before we get to them. We're going into a sacred space already. That's one of the most important things I think about prayer spaces. With the spirit of theological reflection, we should go expecting to find God already present as well as us representing God, right? And so one of my team went and put out the babushka dolls. You can see how one of our young people expressed that. I'll tell you the story later if you want. And this young girl spread out all the babushka dolls on the table and turned round to the chaplain and praised God, it wasn't me. and said, so which one's God? The little one that lives inside of me, or the big one that surrounds me? Now you see why I was pleased it wasn't me? I needed about a fortnight to process my response. Hadn't even started doing the activity. Just created the space for young people and children to engage. I think my profound answer now would be yes. And hope she didn't have any more. Have any of you come across this idea of the whirlpool? I think it's a much healthier way for us to engage with bereavement and loss, because if we kind of just do the simple process and stages, it can feel a bit secular and just ending up in the same place. I think it's much, much more complicated than that. It's less linear and it's really very, very murky. I'm just going to pass this book and Sally will try and find it. And Richard, I want to say it's Richard Wilson, but that doesn't sound quite right. I just love this idea that you just the normality of life, you're just going along and just the muckiness of that whirlpool. It can look really pretty, but actually it's a really dangerous place to be.
It's Richard Wilson.
Richard Wilson, thank you. And then you just come out. You might find what we call a new normal and just come out, but then it can just happen again. And it doesn't mean people are in pathological grief. It just means life continues to be crappy. I was more upset, I think, 5 years on Mother's Day after the death of my mother than the previous 4. Then what's all that about? No idea. Not a Scooby. Just acknowledged it, what it was. I was upset. Those of you who live up here and you're fortunate enough to live in the Midlands, I say that as a good southerner. We have something called the National Memorial Arboretum between Burton-on-Trent and Lichfield, and we have a walk up there. And we use that once a year for a bereavement walk and picnic. So the dragonflies and butterflies and dragonflies, which I've brought you just a little bit of today, you can begin to get the idea. And then what we do, we have a beautiful marquee. We have somewhere between, for the picnic, we have kind of between 150, 200 bereaved family members come along. And we do have tables for the children and the young people, but sometimes we just do all age things as well, multi-generational. And again, just creating that space for people to express their own spirituality. And again, that's one of our spiritual and pastoral events, and we just do create different activities for people to come and imbibe their own meaning and making. And it's about honouring, it's about remembering, it's about giving space. We have some of our families now coming back for 10 years. And one of the things when Sally and I were chatting about today is how can we help young people revisit loss and grief on a regular basis rather than in a crisis place? It's an interesting thought, isn't it? We do it for adults around All Saints. I wonder what we could do. Maybe we would build up a lot more understanding and resilience, articulation around loss and grief if we were doing just annual events. I love not being clever enough. What we've ended up being able to do for our families is that now they bring siblings who were born after the death of the previous child. And we've created an environment for these families, for the siblings to now remember a sibling they don't even remember. We didn't have any idea we were doing that. We were doing a memorial event. And we allow people the scope to do that. So we just do an annual tree tag every year. And so, any of you heard of cloities? These little ribbons? We did this. This is a previous reincarnation of that gold netting. It's very Scottish and very Cornish for the Celts amongst us. And it's basically tying a memorial ribbon and bow at a holy well. And so we took that idea and we bought that. And, and this is kind of just trying to be honest with you about some of our journey. We did all this beautiful ribbon and all these gorgeous pens and highlighters and all these, and the only thing that wrote on this ribbon was a biro. You kind of go, okay. Right. And again, just allowing, if you just come and read some of the things that people have done. And there's our little poem from earlier. This is something we did. We also do we do a Christian memorial service. We hold it in the Roman Catholic Cathedral. We have between 200 and 300 family members come, and it's a very, very Christian funeral memorial. And so one of the projects that we'll be giving away this year is that we've written 9 new hymns for children's funerals and memorials to reasonably well-known tunes, and we'll be downloading them later on in the year for people to be able to play and listen to and sing along to. And so being able to just engage faith seriously without having to sing all things bright and beautiful because it's crap. And again, just creating the space for these children to do this. There was a comment made at the Q&A just before lunch about staff, and I had an email from a staff member that literally made me cry. I sat at my computer sobbing. I frequently cry at my computer, but not for this kind of reason. We'd had a member of staff whose son had committed suicide, and the staff member's team just had no idea how to support this family, and we had the chaplaincy team had the privilege of being invited in to support the rest of the team, and we did that, and we did a little service. We call them shadow funerals. When the funeral's going on for the family, we can do something in the hospital chapel. And subsequently, the staff were able to say, we've been and seen the lady, and because of the way you've helped us to process this, we were more equipped and confident in relating to her. But there is no magic here, is there? There's no easy answers. And I would suggest to you, if there is an easy answer, it's the wrong answer. What else do we want to do? Okay. There are some videos. I think there's a little bit, we're just changing our webmaster at the moment. It's not very compatible with Apple. I don't quite know why, so I can't show you the video. But if any of you, there's where's Victoria Beach? Name of her project escapes me. I'm just having a dyslexia. God Venture helped us to write, and so again, So when we do a Christian and religious resource, we do a Christian religious resource. Jesus still loves Joe, right? There's not a great deal of ambiguity about that. Okay? But what it means is in schools, in our churches, just like in a hospital, if we can be skilled in offering religious, spiritual and pastoral care, we can potentially support everybody. And we make it very easy for people to relate to us. And so for that family that I was telling you about from last night, this was the book that we're able to give them for the 5-year-old sibling, because the parents are going, we don't know what to say to them. And Bear Grylls kindly donated his time to do some online videos for us. Okay. What can I do for you? Would some of you like, shall I show you a little bit of the picnic space? Because I just think there's something about nature that I just think is just quite nice. Oh. You have to excuse me, I'm just not used to using.
The hospital chaplains are at the UK Centre of Remembrance in Staffordshire for a special event.
Bill, how many kisses do you want to do for Ethan? How many kisses? Should we do some red kisses?
Every year, families of children who died at the hospital are invited here for a memorial walk and picnic.
People would come in and they'd leave feeling better because they'd seen him, and that was right throughout, but even right at the last stages of his illness, he just inspired people. People were laughing, they went out and lifted.
So their children died very recently, and some families who come year after year, and they're going to write the names of a child they're here to remember today on a stone and decorate it, and then later on when we go down to the memorial tree, they're going to put the stone by the tree when their families lay a flower as well.
Over 200 people are joining the chaplains on the walk.
He was such a good character and it's just so hard.
It's a hard road, you know, you need people to talk to about it, just how awful it feels sometimes, and to know that that's okay, you're not going to be hurried along in your grief. The thing that you try not to do is try and fix it for people, because it's the sort of thing that doesn't really fix in that way, and you can't make it better, but I think the best thing is listening.
At the end of the walk, families lay stones and flowers in memory of the child they lost.
Remembering Ethan, he was our youngest triplet, and he was 3 months old, and he died of technically like hot death, but it was during the day, so sudden infant death. Ben had a brain tumour at 7 years old, and he fought it for 7 years. So he had 5 years cancer-free, and sadly relapsed 2 years ago and lost his battle this year in February. And it's nice to be part of something. It doesn't help, nothing helps. But everyone's in the same position, so it's kind of nice to be part of something where we're all remembering children that we've lost. So we all feel similar.
remembering my little boy, Jake. He died last year, last February, meningitis. They say time is a healer. I don't agree with that. I just think time allows you to deal with it better.
It's a big comfort to be with other people who understand what this life is like, because it's a completely different life to life before Sufyan, and it's a different life to what most families have. So it's just nice to be amongst people who understand.
In the midst of our fragility and our wonder, I believe that God loves us with a deep and abiding love that hopefully reaches down into the very depths of human suffering.
I think there's something really deeply within every person, a human being, that you need things to do, call them rituals, in order to help you to move on. And it's sort of almost like a marker, and you put it down, and you're taking a little step along the road. So I think it's terribly important. I think it's essential in the whole grieving and healing process to be able to mark and say, yes, we did that together in that place, in a national memorial arboretum.
So just as we draw to a close and you have been able to process some of this, any particular comments or questions as we conclude, as we just perhaps try and contextualise some of what we've got before we break?
So what did you call it when you have a simultaneous celebration of Thanksgiving in the hospital?
Oh, a shadow funeral. Yeah, I think it's quite a helpful model for school, because sometimes, you know, you can't go and do that, and we take some of the same material from the funeral and do that. It's able to help our institutions engage when they can't all go. Yeah. Any other making connections? Anything that you can see might be helpful in your contexts?
Young people in the first place we had a coffin that they made flowers to put on top of. And it's the fact that however much you plan, you think they'll do, actually the way people engage is very, very different. So we were doing that activity as a way of them thinking about their own mortality.
Okay.
And thinking about how people would remember them.
Yeah.
But of course what they turned it into was remembering others.
Yes.
And actually making sure that you have that flexibility to change the way you're engaging with the space as they, it was a very moving experience, but it wasn't what we expected.
No, and I think that's what, for me, spiritual play creates for us, for the children and young people to go off with the play however they want. That's what good play should do. We have done a book on some of the ideas that we've done, if you're interested. So the time is up. Let me just finish with this. This is, as well as saying I'm so sorry for your loss, this is an activity I do at most of our bereavement situations. I have a beautiful glass heart plate, and I invite the families, if they would like to come and do it, and to take one of these little gold hearts and put it on their child as a sign of their love for their child. and then to take another gold heart and take it away for them that represents their child's love for them. And that is a way of being able to engage families in empowering, in participation, within taking place in ritual to come and bring to that whatever meaning they want. And I will then do, normally, I will lay one, and it depends how many times I will do this. I will then come and lay one on behalf of the hospital if the nurse isn't particularly around. And if I do sense there is some faith and some just inkling, I will then come in faith and lay one on behalf of God as a sign of God's love for their child. Because I think, for another session to engage theologically in this, I decided not to go there today, it's too big. But this idea of appropriate hope is the last thought I want to leave with you. How do we have and bring appropriate hope to people without bringing a false hope that it's all going to be okay? This is our gift that we can do for folks. Okay, thank you very much.